Hey everybody, welcome to the Future Podcast. I'm your host Sean Donnellan. I'm here today with Brayden Bullen. Brayden, after about 20, 25 minutes of technical difficulties, we got this off the ground. How
That's
are
right.
you?
Really good. Staying sane,
Yeah,
trying to at least.
it's a
Yeah.
tough time
How
to
about yourself?
stay positive.
Yeah.
Are
And
you all right?
you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's no point complaining to anybody because everybody's in the exact same boat. You're like,
It's so true.
when
And
you suffer in life and you feel like sometimes you feel like it's your burden. Now everybody's got the exact same burden. So
yeah,
what can you
I
do?
think, I'm interested because I think it's actually really healthy. Like, um, all the materialistic activities have kind of come to an end, right? You can't be seen, you can't dress. There's no need to do all those things. And so
Yeah.
I think everybody has to just deal with their shit right now. And uh, I think it's going to be quite healthy when you come out of
Yeah.
this.
I'd like if we could have if we could have had that awakening without some people having to die and things, but
Yeah.
it is there's definitely an awakening for some people, for sure. Like I used to think that everything was just constant. I'd be looking at skyscrapers or buildings and stuff and I'd be like, wow, we live in the best time to be alive, which we do, but how
Yeah.
fragile is it all, it's
So
interesting.
true. So true.
It's interesting, yeah. So, how you holding up anyway? Looks like a pretty nice day there right now.
It's beautiful. I mean, Toronto's had really good weather. We've had some rain, but I think that's kind of nice. You're inside. Things are growing outside. The grass is green, so
Yeah,
it's everybody's a little happier for that.
yeah. You guys have got tough winters there.
Yeah, some of the worst, but
Yeah,
this one was
pretty
actually really good.
pretty intense. I always think to myself, like the first people that landed in Toronto and then suffered the first winter, and they're like, you know what, we're going to stay here.
Yeah,
Like 200 years ago or whatever, or 150 years ago. Like that's
adversity, right?
no no
Resources.
no air conditioning, no central heating. Oh
Yeah,
my
people
God,
would have just smelled
crazy.
horrible back then.
So,
That's the
just to give a brief overview of what the podcast is, the podcast is basically a follow up from a series of events that I was hosting last year. All these events, Future Under 40, Future Capital, Ethic events, all these events, the one thing they have in common, I suppose a few things they have in common, but the one single thing is that it's all face to face interaction. So that has been eradicated. Obviously, that's no longer acceptable for the health and well being of people. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to introduce potential guests of the event and people who came to the event to, I suppose, a wider podcasting community. And you're somebody that I was hoping to have at one of the events this year, the
Mhm.
Under 40 event, and maybe events moving forward. So I'd love if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself and kind of your background, your plans for COVID, your plans for the future. Yeah, so when you're ready, no pressure.
Absolutely. So what I do is completely real estate investment. That is my main action every day, and kind of fell into that. It's something that I enjoyed, and played with for a number of years, and then over the last couple of years, it's just entirely become the main business activity I do. I also creatively on the side have been making a lot of music, and I think the two things actually come into play together because after university, I worked at a staffing company. It's actually my family staffing company. I came in as a recruiter initially in the summer, and then came in as an account manager after that. And it was interesting. Within probably, I would say 2 weeks of coming in as an account manager in Toronto, the branch just started to have just really fall apart. A lot of all the senior account managers quit. And then that led to other account managers quitting and recruiters quitting. And essentially what was left, and it started about 2 weeks me coming in. After about 2 months, it was just me and actually Elizabeth Calder, who was she was previous CIO for IBM. She was brought on a contract basis to restart that branch. But I was the only person. So I took on the accounts of everyone.
Yeah.
And I went from having 0 consultants, within 2 months. You're looking to have about 10 in your first year to having 58
Oh
after 2
wow.
months. So not only was I in damage control, but I was working on the jobs. I was recruiting on those jobs myself, and being involved actively in trying to hire and parse that out. And what it kind of led into was I eventually took over that branch. And in the course of about a year, we started a new financial service division. And I worked in that position for, I'd say, about a year. And part of the process in SI Systems, which is the company I worked in, is you have to do multiple tests, but if you're of a certain caliber, you get to be put in what's called a leadership pipeline. And this is where all the life-changing kind of learning started to come about me admitting to myself what I really wanted to do. And so part of this leadership pipeline was a life coach. And actually today I'm being certified in this coaching technique. It's called inquiry-based coaching. It's based off The Work by Byron Katie. And essentially every 2 weeks I was having a 1-hour call with a life coach, just going through all my issues and checking base. Because a lot of the times, in companies we're dealing with, physical issues, the business tasks, but we don't take a moment to check in and are we happy? What's going wrong? Why are we unhappy? And after about a year of sessions with her provided by the company, I just finally admitted that was not what I wanted to do. And obviously, being part of a large company like that, I mean, SI Systems is the largest provider of IT consultants in Canada. There was obviously a pipeline that I could have taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
And to step away from that was a really big acknowledgement. And there was two things I kind of acknowledged is, I need to find what that next thing is. And I also want to make music. And these are two things I hadn't really ever admitted to myself, right? Like, I don't necessarily know what that is, but I just finished a great degree and worked really hard to get there. And it was kind of, to the external eyes, you would think, well, you're kind of throwing it all, to shit. You're throwing it all away. Why would you do that?
Yes.
And because there was more for me, right? So during this entire time, I had always been doing real estate on the side, whether that was buying a condo, refinancing that, buying another condo. For our family, I was just advising. You could call it advising, but really they're just conversations happening around the table, right? Of this is where I think if you have excess capital, you should buy condos here. And we started to develop a really solid real estate portfolio, across Canada, but only in single units. And through this process, I had moved to Vancouver. I tried a bunch of things, but eventually I just admitted I need to move back to Toronto and just focus on real estate entirely. And that's kind of where I am today. And I've been doing that, for about 2 years. And it's just been an exceptional decision because it's allowed me to focus on things that I like. And so I'm able to allocate exceptional amounts of time. Nothing's really a task for me. It's been very exciting, and we've made some very big moves in the real estate, space for ourselves. But
predominantly is the real estate that you guys purchase, is that in Toronto mainly? That's mainly Toronto.
So, we have a really simple criteria. I mean,
you don't have to give me your secret sauce now or anything. Don't worry.
No, it's interesting. I'm trying to find this book. It's out here, but I'll grab it so I can just show it to you.
Okay, yeah.
But the interesting thing, it's this book. I mean, this thing's great. If you read this, it's called Creating and Growing Real Estate Wealth.
And who's it by?
It's by William
Bullen.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, if you read this, it's a really good analogy of my story. It's multiple renditions of people's real life experiences, how they got into real estate. And the thing you'll learn about real estate is none of it's rocket science. It's not trading stocks. It's not working in a hedge fund. It's having a really specific set of criteria and an ability to see value and unlock value. Most of the value in real estate is unlocked in its first year of acquisition. Right. So a new buyer sees it. They either see they can add floors or renegotiate leases, whatever it may be. And so that's a great book. That would kind of actually explain how I got to where I am. And the real estate we do today is it's an investment portfolio, and it was part of my strategic decision to completely sell out all of condos across Canada because the amount of cash, the amount of pressure that puts on your cash flow with condo fees is exceptional, and you have no control over that. So I've systematically sold over condos, and now we've just gone into purchasing mixed use residential and commercial. So we have full control over the lease agreements. We have full control over capital expenditure allocations. And so that's been just
have you found it difficult, I suppose, for some of the tenants now, obviously with the big pause, with everything that's going on?
Yeah, I think that leads to your next question. Absolutely. You know, and that's another thing with real term things. So for some of our commercial tenants are grocery stores, you know, a cheese shop, things like these that their sales have gone up, which
Right.
is
Okay.
really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
We have other tenants like a pub, a coffee shop that are completely closed down. We've just deferred those rent periods, and we're still having them pay their TMI payments, which is just taxes, maintenance, insurance. So,
Yes.
you know, some of that is we're going to collect it all over the remaining term of that lease. So say the coffee shop is another 5 years, we'll defer the rent for 3 months, and then we'll spread that deferred rent over the remaining term
Okay.
in equal
Makes sense.
payments.
Yeah.
So it won't be that big of an impact. And then in terms of the actual residential tenants, our particular strategy is to buy brownstone buildings that are about 3 stories tall, and it puts you in a bracket in Toronto where your tenants they're not doing horrible, you know, they're not doing amazingly well, right? They don't own their own condo, but they're kind of in a compression zone that they have rent that's controlled because they've been living in these units for so long that, you know, when they should be paying, let's say $2,800 a month, they're paying $1,400. And so it's actually been easier for them to make their rent payments.
Yes.
And if they're not able to make the rent payments, let's say after 3 months, they're still not able to make even portions, you know, on the recovery. Let's say we have tenants now that are 6 months without any rent. If we have to find those tenants new homes, you know, we'll help them do that. But the new tenants coming in will come in at a much higher rate. So it puts you in we've put ourselves in a strategic position that actually allows for us to be quite successful through a time like this. And that in particular, after this, it really puts us in a place to, you know, excel. So there's people that don't have that situation. That just happened to be, you know, us in a good position, you know, without actually thinking. We didn't know this was going to happen, right?
Yeah. Me neither. I didn't know either.
We always buy real estate to plan for economic downturns, right? And like we don't have a bunch of retail stores, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it
Things
makes
like
a
this,
huge
right?
difference.
So we do build that into the model, and it's so far it's done us well. So knock on wood, but we're working with everyone to make sure they have a home and a roof over their head.
Brilliant. Tell me about your music.
Yeah. So this was a really interesting thing for myself, because I think I would challenge anyone. We often have inclinations inside of us to do certain things. That could be surfing, and you've never surfed before. Maybe you're 35, you know, and you're like, it's just too late. But the thing is, I just admitted I wanted to make music, and so started by just reaching out to friends and saying, does anybody know anyone? I wasn't singing. I freestyled, you know, sometimes with friends. It was fun, but I just reached out, and I eventually got paired with a producer, and we started creating some songs. And then after I realized I could create beats with producers, compose those, and write lyrics, I started making more. And then I would get feedback. My lyricism isn't very strong, so I would just write. You know,
Yes.
I try to write at least a song a week, and you know, sometimes I'll write 5 songs a week. You know, sometimes I write none. But it's the creationary aspect. But by me admitting that truth to myself, it's just unlocked just a big fire inside me, right? It really motivates me, and it also allows myself to be more honest with other things. You know, if I don't like that, well, then maybe I should not do that, right?
Yeah.
If I don't like this relationship, that's probably not a relationship I should be in. Yeah, just admitting inner truths is a big part of my lifestyle. So by doing that, it's just been fantastic. And first song is going to come out on May 8th.
Oh, cool. Where is it going to, where can we find it?
Everywhere. It'll be on iTunes, Spotify, you name it. It's
Wherever there's music. Cool.
exactly. My dog, I think, is chewing my Bluetooth cables here, so I apologize if there's
Oh, you're okay. You're good. You're good.
something going on in the background there. But yeah, that's been such a cool learning opportunity. And now I'm actually I think I'm gonna merge the two in the future. I have the real estate background, and along with doing real estate for my family office, I also have a real estate company for myself.
Okay.
And where I'm doing a kind of more, you could say higher risk projects. What we do in our family office, what I do for our family office is purchase buildings that I can optimize. So we have ones renegotiating leases. I mean, if you look at, you're able to increase the bottom line income by, let's say 20% in your first year. That's a 20% return on your investment. When you leverage it, that return on your investment in that first year becomes substantial. The projects I'm doing personally are, a full gut and renovation.
Okay.
A smaller size building, and then it's already vacant, and then re-renting that out. And once that's done, I would like to merge, that with actually maybe opening a studio. So
Cool.
finding a piece of property that could have other tenants to support the actual running of that asset, and then, have a actual space in there for myself, as well as these two producers I've been working with, and try to kind of give them as well as myself the opportunity to flourish by just putting ourselves in the right environment.
Yeah, nice. Sounds unbelievable. Yeah. The mix. If you could have your, I suppose, your hobby playing off. Well, they're both interests of yours, so that'd be
Totally.
yeah.
You know what?
Quite
I
enjoyable.
find it's interesting. I was talking to someone just yesterday about just the two things I'm doing. Typically one person, they would choose to, be an artist, or they would choose to run an investment fund. And the interesting thing is that he said, you can do both if you never sleep. And, but you can do that. You could actually add another thing in there. It's just, are you willing not to watch the Netflix? Are you willing to go to bed early?
Yeah.
If you're up for 16 hours, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Somebody told me before. It's not that there isn't time. It's just that it isn't a priority for you. There's
Yeah, and
time.
diligence.
If
Right.
it's a priority, you'll make the time. So
Exactly. And I mean, you would know better, I think, than anyone else. You have a million things, going on. But I took that piece from, who wrote, oh man, he's a self-improvement guy, and he's got a book, and it's all just about all the top people in the world in athleticism. And I'm having a brain fart. Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. That's
okay. Yes. Yeah.
And he was asked in a podcast, they said, how do you have time for all your things? Because Tim Ferriss, I mean, we're doing maybe 2 or 5 things. Tim Ferriss appears to be doing about 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, they asked him, like, how do you allocate time throughout your day? And he said, I wake up and I take my dogs for a really long walk to start. And during that walk, I just think about the 3 things that I want to get done. And I do those 3 things, and I do them incredibly well. And, it's typically 80% of success comes off of 20% of your activity, right, in a business. And so if you can just really hone down, and some fires are going to be started, I mean, just acknowledging which fires can burn is, essential.
So you're a busy guy. What do you like to do then in your spare time? What's outside of work? What do you enjoy? What helps you relax?
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, when I'm relaxing, sometimes I'm projecting cash flows, at night.
It's pretty relaxing. Yeah.
the interesting, because it's a model for me where it's like, wow, we can get that. And I apologize for the shadowing.
That's okay. That's okay. But most people are going to listen, I think, anyway.
Yeah, but it's I spend my time doing those 2 things because I just made the conscious decision that there was a portion of my life where I definitely had a lot of free time. Now I have less of that free time because it's those art and or music and real estate have just flourished for me, where I can spend all my time in those things. And those things really do allow me to relax. Like, as weird as that sounds. So in my spare time, I'm writing, I'm working on various different models. And because to be honest, I force myself to read. I don't love reading, but I have to continue learning. As I mentioned, I have a dog, so that guy keeps me sane. He's been a great quarantine buddy, but I take him for walks, and it's very, very simple, I think, in those regards. When I'm not locked up, I tend to be socializing, a lot, and
yeah,
my socialization habits really changed through the life work I've been doing. So I have probably in Toronto about 10 people that I spend majority of my time talking to and hanging out with, but doing really interesting stuff. So one of my friends, for example, Jeremy Reinbold, he
Great guy.
owns a life insurance firm out of Vancouver. Yeah, a great guy. And an example of how I'm spending my time, my free time, we did a session this last a couple days ago called Shadow Work, where we just went and looked at the darkest parts of ourselves. So I definitely have some issues, and I've definitely had
everybody does,
exactly. And we have moments in our life where we're ashamed of them, or we've partied too hard, we've made bad decisions, we've acted egotistical, we've been arrogant, we've hurt someone. There's all these things, and it was we just talked about those for about 2 hours through a set of questions, sharing them, trying to acknowledge that the dark side is something that's within you, right? So instead of trying to package it in a box and put it away, I shouldn't be doing these activities. What activities would give me the same kind of euphoria or same kind of result, that dark side needs to connect to, but these activities wouldn't make you feel ashamed about them, right? And so we were just, doing stuff like that. And of course, when I do get kind of overwhelmed or exhausted, I will check out and binge watch the odd Netflix things like that. But
what are you watching in quarantine?
A series I've started and I've just gone through the first half was Money Heist. It's fantastic. Okay. Yeah. I tend to watch a lot of films like that, or series like that are kind of like intellectually stimulating in the sense of thinking and strategy and
so no Tiger King. So
yeah, no, I did. I didn't enjoy it that much though. I thought it was kind of like talking about a lot of like hearsay,
Yes,
so it's a while to get through Tiger Kings, it was funny, it's very interesting.
It's comical.
There's more riveting things.
You got a pretty trippy kind of picture on the wall behind you there. So for anybody that can't see it, it's a Tiger King special. It's a tiger, but it's like it's multicolored. It's almost like a kind of like a bit of a trip, It's a tiger with loads of different colors. Tell me about that. It's an impressive piece of artwork.
It's interesting. If you saw my place, it's full of art. Okay. And because I'm I think I'm an artist above anything. And one of the reasons why I love and connect with real estate so much is because it's art. It's space. It connects to you energetically. Any personal property I live in has to be southwest facing. It needs to have floor to ceiling windows. It needs to be in a certain community, that I can connect to, that inspires me. But the story behind this guy was years ago, I was in Thailand and I was in an art market and I saw it. I just loved it. I connected to it. I love the energy. I also have animals, and what they symbolize to me are a very big thing. I have my left arm sleeve, and it's compiled of all animals that have attributes that I aspire to have. And for various reasons, but this guy, you can obviously connect with it's bravery, it's courageousness, it's ferocity. It's ferocious.
Yeah.
And so when I bought it, I didn't have a place. I was still in school. I finished my degree in Hong Kong at HKU, and did quite a bit of traveling while I was there. I also studied Buddhism, and I said when I bought that, wherever it is in my life that I end up living, I want this to be the center of my space that I spend time in, looking behind that, because I want that to be my energy projecting outwards. And I put that into the world probably about 4 years before it had a wall space that was big enough to be on. And there it is. And ironically enough, what I'm looking at right now it's a view of the Toronto skyline. And I have just a ginormous desk. I was in Bali with my family, and there's a woodworker there, and we made this desk that it was actually a dining room table for 10 people. And it's just in Bali, their longhouses have their front doors. It's interesting. In Bali, their whole family and extended family lives in one house.
Okay,
That's how they operate. And they have these beautiful carved pieces of wood over the front door. And it's one of those. And it just supports this glass. And so it's behind my desk, and it's behind my workstation. And that's where I have my recording demo situation on one side and my workstation on the other. And I just think that's really interesting. You put something like that into the world and it comes, but everything here is from a different country. Like that is from that face mask there is from the jungles in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
And when I grew up at about 10 years old, my parents really got into Hinduism. I probably spent about 2 years of my life at an ashram in India. And that came from there. And above that is a Halloween mask from the Philippines. So
Cool.
all things that, capture experiences in my life and just surround myself in them. So you'd probably think I'm super eclectic when you come
No,
in.
it looks great. And I obviously know your dad as well. He's a great guy. I think you spent some
Yeah.
time living in Ireland as well, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Good
Really
guy. So
inspiring story.
well traveled.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's definitely one of the big reasons I think I make a lot of the risks and decisions. I think if you asked any of my family members, I'm probably the least adverse to making risky decisions, specifically when it comes to capital,
Yeah.
which is kind of allowed me to I'm not making stupid decisions, at least by my mindset, right? They've tended to work out, but
Yeah, no risk, no reward.
exactly. But a lot of the things I've learned is from him. And you're right. He did live in Ireland for a period of time until he went bankrupt. And that's when he moved back to, or he didn't very clear bankruptcy, but he was broke. And that's another story. But moved back to Canada and started his company underneath a bridge in an office space that was just loaned to him by a friend, for free. And my mom was his accountant and bookkeeper, and her dad was his. He helped too. I can't remember what his tasks were. Maybe he was the accountant and bookkeeper, but that's where it all started. So you hear stories like that, or you live with people that live stories like that, and it kind of fires you up to do more. So lucky in that regards, that's for sure.
So just kind of touching on, I suppose, the overarching theme of the whole world right now. What do you think is going to be the lasting effect of this? Say for your industry, for people our age, people older, people younger, whatever. What do you think is going to change as a result of this? It's it's a question that I've been asking people who've been guests on the event on this podcast to see what their opinion is. What do you think?
My opinion is very positive in the sense that I think we're going to enter a renaissance period after this of a ton of artistic creation. I think the biggest reason why is that, if you're a socialite, let's say, and you're asked to spend months at home with yourself, you go crazy. But after a period of time, you have to start dealing with your unhappiness. So you have to start looking for things you love, ways to spend your time, conversations with people, because you don't necessarily want to reach out to everybody right now. People don't feel that social. And I think what's going to happen is, a shift in idealism, away from kind of this, I really need a fancy car, I really need to live in a big place, I need to have that hot wife and just cash, and the ability to throw it out wherever. I think those things will still be, important to some people, but I think there's going to be more personalities that are actually driven by, I want to do this. I don't have a job and I've had time to read books on this. I'm going to become a digital marketing agent, because it's something I've always wanted to do. Or maybe they've started to get little contracts at home, or, working on freelancer.com. I think that when you're stuck with yourself, you have to start admitting who you are to yourself. And so I think through that process, we're going to see a society that's well more equipped to go after what it is they truly like. And for those reasons, when you do things, my dog, when you do things that, you truly connect to, that you love, you just have another gas tank always available. Right. And it's so much easier for you. So I think we're going to see a fitter world. I think we're going to see a world that eats better. I think we're going to see a world where people are in positions they're better suited for. I think we're going to see a world where people are more willing to learn. I think we're going to see a massive influx back into education. So we're going to have a more educated workforce. I think we're going to have a greater sense of nationality. Not to say that I think anybody should be welcome to live anywhere in the world, but for those that already live in a country, I think it's going to bring them together. And I think we're going to see a deeper level of friendship and appreciation for the friendship. So, for the economic side effects, which are huge right now, I think the cost versus the reward is going to be minor. And it wouldn't surprise me if we exit this as a world a little more enlightened. And I think it's going to be great. I think it's actually one of the best things that could have happened to us. I don't wish anybody, was dying. That part's sad, but through any Great Depression always comes the greatest growth period. So I'm actually quite excited because I think it's a truly unique time. The whole world has essentially gone to war against something.
Yes.
And statistically, after wars are done, is the greatest time of growth. So I'm really looking forward to it. I really am.
And another question for you: any budding entrepreneurs, professionals, people who are a little bit unsure of themselves right now, what advice would you give them coming out of this and during this? What do you advise people do?
It's interesting. I just went through an exercise like this with my dad. I'm not involved in the staffing company. We still have some conversations sometimes, and we went through this exercise yesterday. How do you prepare a company in order to take advantage of the situation, and also, right now to be able to sustain its cash flow and whatnot? And I think the thing for entrepreneurs is use this as an opportunity to practice. If you have no time at home and you've always wanted to get into digital marketing, or you've always wanted to get into real estate, start going for walks. Look at homes. One of the best things that I do with my dog to understand real estate is I walk around Toronto, and I just look at things that inspire me. I think that's cool. They built 2 homes there, with separate basement suites. I really love that architecture. So there's such an opportunity for people to dive deep into things they've never had the time to do. And then I would say just don't have the fear of enacting on those, coming out of those. That's the quickest. We're so quick to get rid of things we love because it's difficult, to make them into things that create money for us. But I would say struggle with that. And the other thing I would say is it's just going to be a fact that right now there's a substantial amount of layoffs, and they've already occurred, and there will be more that will continue to happen. But as soon as things come back on, because of all the layoffs, there will be a huge hiring opportunity. So if you've wanted to work at these top 10 firms, you've never worked at one of them, or you've wanted to work in this different industry, I would be making a list of those companies. I would be making a list of the industries I'm interested in. I would be honing in on my resume. I would be practicing skills, learning piano. I'm learning piano right now. I would do life work. I would do coaching strategies. I'd be learning, I think it's Stanford or Harvard is allowing all of their education, which is now transferred to online, to be open resources. I think it's maybe Harvard. And so anybody can tune in, to a world-class institution and start getting educated in those fields. So I would say, make your list, start reaching out, to those people, and just say, because you better bet when this comes back online, if you've already had a conversation with someone, that's way easier than going through 100 resumes or 1,000 resumes, right? Yeah. So I would say just get really focused on where you plan to be, because this is temporary. And there's this book called The Power of Habit, which just says that your brain is pretty much hardwired from habits it does, except for one thing that allows your brain to be malleable, and that is traumatic life experiences. I think the economy is very like that as well. People get hired into jobs they might not have gotten hired into before. Things are going to be different, how things work, how companies' hiring policies are, the kind of talent they're willing to bring in. So I would be getting really clear on where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And I'd already start going after that. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we're out of time. Thank you so much. That was a blast, buddy. Come here. Before you go, if people want to find out about your companies or find out more about you online, where should they look? Yeah. So the only thing they can find me on, is my music. Everything financially, because we're in the family business, is very private. Perfect. So, I don't have a LinkedIn. I don't have anything of those sorts, but my music is they can follow my artist name, which is Brayden Alexander, and that's Brayden Alexander. And my Instagram account is Honey Only Comes From Bees.
That's actually the first name of the first album there. And
Nice.
happy to stay connected on there. If anybody had any questions, you know, you could send them to me. I'd happy to have a one-on-one chat with them. I think that's most valuable.
All right, buddy. Good to
Okay,
see you.
Sean.
Thanks a
Stay
million.
safe. Thanks for
Stay
that.
safe. Yeah. Talk to you soon. Okay. Keep in
Love
touch.
it. Okay,
Bye.
great. Enjoy
Good
your
luck.
day.